Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me for trusting you again.
Chapter 5. Over the Edge. Though the vindictive part of my nature urged me to keep it and pawn it, I gave Ron his engagement ring back when I collected my things from his house. Wanting nothing of his, I gave my daughter the necklace he'd given me, and the rest I trashed. Ron avoided my office unless he absolutely had to be there. When we had business dealings with each other, he was quiet and reserved. On my part, I ignored him or treated him with the cold professional courtesy of a stranger. The whole office sensed the chill. No one asked what happened, but they all knew something was wrong. This lasted about 2 months. Then, the next time Ron came up for supplies, he tried making small talk. At first, I short answered him, giving one-word responses whenever possible, and when it wasn't, I was straight and to the point. He persisted, making an obvious effort to be friendly, believing he simply wanted to put things between us on a more sociable level. I gradually relented and lost the hostility. After all, we still had to work together. Time passed, and I cautiously allowed myself to be friendlier with him. We were by no means friends, but I stopped treating him like enemies, engaged in a cold war. My anger had lessened, but the disappointment was still there. You just don't treat the woman you profess to love the way he treated me. For years he'd been saying all the right things, but his actions hadn't measured up. I was sorry it had taken me so long to realize it. Unfortunately, Ron chose to see my change in attitude as an open door. One morning, he came into my office early before the rest of the staff arrived.
Nina, may I speak with you privately?
Over the majority of my hurt and anger, and making a real effort to move on with my life, I nevertheless agreed. We walked into the copier room where he apologized.
I've been thinking a lot about what you said. You're right. I was wrong about so many things. Will you give me another chance?
He stood there, looking very earnest. I had a rule about no second chances, but I also knew something else about myself. I still loved the jerk. Was I happy about it? No, but there it was. I'd been miserable with him, but wasn't much happier without him. I gave you plenty of chances while we were together, I reminded him.
I know. I promise I'll get it right this time. We'll take it slow, start over from the beginning if you like. This time will be different,
Ron said, his eyes pleading with me. He looked as tired as I felt, as though our separation hadn't been any easier on him. Remembering all the wonderful promises God had given me concerning this man and his future, I decided to take a chance. I didn't tell him I still loved him, but I accepted his apology and made our reconciliation conditional. All right, I'll give it one more try, but this time we'll take things very slow, and there'll be no sex between us. The no sex clause was to gauge how serious he was about reconciling, and because I didn't trust Ron not to hurt me again. Determined to keep a bit of emotional distance between us, I proceeded cautiously. This time things would be on my terms. If Ron wanted me, he'd have to work for me. Ron was very repentant, and little by little, things got better. He called constantly, was very attentive, and seemingly interested in even the smallest details of my life. It was nice and made a good change from how things were before. I was beginning to think maybe this time it would be okay. I avoided sexual temptation by staying away from his house. Most of our dealings with each other were via phone, talking, trying to work through our issues. One day, about 3 months later, I took the day off. Even as things in my relationship with Ron were improving, my home life was going to hell. I was having serious financial difficulties and was in danger of losing my home. My son was acting out, and it seemed like I spent more time at his school than work. My wisdom teeth were giving me problems. I'd been putting off having them removed since I was 18, but could delay no longer. Topping it all off, the doctor discovered my thyroid wasn't functioning properly, causing me to be exhausted all the time, bleed profusely when my cycle was on, and gain weight. He put me on medication. I was lying in bed resting, thinking about Ron and giving serious thought to taking our relationship to the next level. Ron had given me an engagement ring, not the same one as before, but I hesitated to wear it. He said when he saw it on my finger, he'd know all was well between us. Was it time to take that next step? TJ called, interrupting my musings.
Nina, first of all, how are you feeling?
Sighing, I was happy to admit, much better. The thyroid medication is starting to kick in, and having those teeth pulled helped a lot. I didn't realize how many of my headaches were caused by my mouth.
I'm glad. Look, I wanted to warn you before you came in. Ron's engaged. He posted an engagement notice and picture on the bulletin board in the lunchroom and below in the shops this morning. I heard some of the mechanics talking about it. A lot of them are pissed off at him. They're saying how nice of a lady you are and how stupid he was to let you get away. And they find the timing of this engagement suspicious, TJ muttered angrily, showing she shared their opinion. No one but TJ knew Ron and I had renewed our relationship. Ron, per usual, had been seeking TJ's advice on how to win me back. As for the rest of our coworkers, Ron requested we keep our renewed relationship on the down low, stating that part of the problem before was there had been too many people in our business. I'd agreed with his request for secrecy for reasons of my own. I was hurt and angry, but squashed my instinctive outraged response. TJ wasn't fooled, but she wasn't my girl for nothing. She let it go and didn't call me on my calm reply. Simply stated, "Call me if you need me. You know I got your back." The next day when I returned to work, I had my game face on. I knew people wanted to see my reaction to Ron's news, because for him to be announcing his engagement so soon after our breakup meant he had to have been two-timing me. My pride wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me react. Whenever the subject came up, I wished him happiness. Ron, smart man that he was, made his presence scarce. On the way to the restroom a few days later, I took advantage of the break room being empty to get a good look at the woman he was marrying. Shock took away my anger. This woman looked so much like me she could have been my twin. Surely it was just my bruised ego playing tricks with my eyes, but no. She had the same round face. Her eyes were the same brown as mine. We had the same light complexion and appeared to be about the same weight and body shape. Even our hair was the same shoulder length. I called TJ. Is it just my imagination, or does Ron's fiancé look a lot like me? TJ burst out laughing. She laughed so hard she started snorting. I had to wait for her to regain her composure. Girl, you ain't imagining a thing. I started to tell you, but figured it would be better for you to see yourself. It's obvious to everyone but him. The guys are calling him all kinds of fool. I began to feel sorry for the future Mrs. Parker and grateful it wasn't me. The anger I felt at Ron for playing me was minuscule compared to my absolute fury and disgust at myself for allowing myself to be played. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me for being a fool. However, my emotional turmoil was the least of my problems. The spiritual guilt and condemnation I was under gave me no peace. Part of me, though totally unjustified, was angry with God. If he hadn't brought Ron into my life, I wouldn't be in my current emotional state. I didn't want to listen to the quiet voice reminding me he'd warned me I would get hurt. Fool that I was, I hadn't asked for clarification or taken the warning with the seriousness it deserved. I'd blithely assumed with loving someone came an element of hurt feelings based on the misunderstandings of two individuals striving to become one.
However, when you go contrary to God's law, any resulting hurt is not God's fault. Like a loving, all-knowing Father, His law is there for our protection. My sin had caused all of this torment I now felt. If I'd kept to God's way of doing things, I'd have been in a position to hear God's voice clearly. God would not have allowed me to be mistreated. If Ron refused to treat me the way God's word demanded, God would have removed him from my life. Ron's absence might have hurt, but it would not have devastated me because God would have protected my heart. Doing the only thing I knew to do, I choked down my anger and humbly turned to God for forgiveness and healing. I'd only been this broken once before during the breakup of my marriage. God had healed me then, and because He's merciful, I knew He'd do so again.